of NIP. They no longer have to deal with a lot of these power picks, and this is where I'm very curious about where the creativity and the champion pools get challenged on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, so NIP swapping out a couple of their bans where it looks like FPX are just carrying on with the anti-Doinb strategy. I mean, it worked well enough for them in game number 1. They banned Rise, they banned Annie rather. And this time around, they take the Lucian out of the board instead. So Yone is still open, which is something that NIP previously banned. And FPX took away a third Doinb champion, which has now been left open, which they may view to counter the Yone with. But NIP, they've got their choice of first pick. Yorick is banned as well. Can be seen as the answer sometimes to that Sion and in that split push. So opening up for a first pick Sion, responded to with a Cassante. Holy moly, okay.
I'm not gonna lie, Rude. I've not been a fan of Cassante whenever we see him emerge in this split so far. It just seems like Sion really just eclipses this guy in being that super tank you want. And unfortunately, Cassante I feel like has been nerfed so many times, and it feels so clunky and not as smooth as it used to be before. FPX at least do get the Pantheon for themselves, which has been a power pick for them. But
guys,
Pompey locked in.
Dylan, we have to go Vayne here.
Oh my god. It's Dylan. 2 super tanks. 2 super tanks.
I have to go Vayne here. Kassadin Vayne. It's the only way to play for FPX.
It would be crazy if Care was the person that brought out the Kassadin against Doinb, who has been known to do that in these kinds of situations. But Care, we have been wondering whether he would be able to step up against the guy that he had to start filling in the shoes for FPX ever since Doinb left in 2022. And here we go, game 2 on the line, and it's Kassadin for Care.
Wow, so we are scaling this game here. Victor looking to scale into the late game, Kassadin looking to scale into the hyper late game, and Care taking on that burden, knowing that we said so much about his team being the carries for him and him maybe being a little bit along for the ride. Well, this game, he's going to have to step up. He's going to have to be that absolute fiend. We need to see experience, gold, everything funneled into this Kassadin. And a reminder that we have to look back at what Kassadin has looked like in previous patches, previous splits. Right, this champion has not really seen too much of the light of day, but this is a patch where Rod of Ages looks pretty good, where Tyr has been a staple for the majority of champions throughout the mid lane pool, and now with Care taking a champion that scales off of mana, so a Tyr and a Rod of Ages are going to look very good upon him, and moving that into this mid to late game team fight, expecting that Care here is going to be in a very good position.
I am now remembering that Kassadin Care did play Kassadin earlier this year. I'm struggling to remember which game that was. I'm going through GOL.GG. It was against JDG earlier this split. Oh my gosh, it was week 3. It was week 3. My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So week 3 Care. Now, what I'd actually like to see from NIP is then pivot up their jungle pick. Arky at the minute looks like he could be taking this Poppy, but what I'd like to see them do is actually just put this Poppy into support and go for something really hyper aggressive. Oh my word, we are scaling up to the high heavens. Put something really aggressive in the jungle and really try to punish the Kassadin. There are still a couple of really good picks that you can take to do that, but it looks like here that even though Poppy and Twalist is a really good combo, NIP are looking to keep ppgod on something that can have really good engage potential and not necessarily something that's going to be looking for that disengage. The Smolder, the Victor, we are going scaling. Like, honestly, guys, like, this is a Vayne game. Let's see it. Nobody's doing anything for the first 10 minutes. Let's just vibe.
Awesome. You got that dog in you. Hang on. I'm looking through all-time stats. I do not see a single Vayne game, at least in Tier 1. Maybe he's played it in LDL. Jinx, not necessarily, the same type of true damage ripper in terms of shredding through tanks, but she is a hyper carry, and if you've got strong burst and setup, she can flourish. My only concern is, Rude, where is the burst coming from on this team?
Where are they getting the first kill? Like, Shadow, they are going to rely so heavily on their frontliners. And for both of these two teams, it's triple tank and two carries. Jinx, I think, in the long run, probably just slightly outpacing the Smolder in a team fight situation. Kassadin as well, if they can get access. I do kind of favour the fact that Care has maneuverability, and the game lives and dies by this Kassadin, by the way. Victor, Smolder, and Jinx don't have the same level of agency as a Kassadin does. A Kassadin can get into a backline, one-shot a Smolder, and then reset his way out of that fight. The difference, really, between what these two mid laners can accomplish in this game is astronomical. They may end up with the same output, but the tools with which they have to get to that stage are very, very different. Care on this Kassadin has that opportunity to get into the backline and be a threat, where if Doinb is flashing into the backline, he's probably getting CC'd and one-tapped.
Well, Rude, I did not expect Game 2 draft to look like this.
This is Game 5, Fearless.
Yeah, it feels like we have just already gotten to the climax of the series. We're at the end game, and but the fact that we're seeing it in Game 2 means that FPX are ready to just wrap it up to match point for themselves, because if Ninjas in Pyjamas do not find a win here, I just don't know if the momentum is on their side to swing it back.
It's going to be tricky, and I think that this game, Mark, to be honest, like, we could probably sit here, discuss the weather, we could get to know each other a little bit better, and get to know the broadcast as well a little bit better, and interact a little bit with some of our friends across the ponds. But ideally, this game goes to 40 minutes and we see mega team fights. In all actuality, one team may just snowball and end up with a very quick win, because one of their hyper-scaling marksmen just gets a little bit ahead of the curve.
I'm not sure either. Well, I had a tussle with some online stats websites in trying to determine whether certain champions have been picked or not by certain carries. I was wrong on a couple of them. Hang on, Shadow. Oh. Well, that's a flash gone from the Pantheon. We'll see if Ninjas and Pyjamas continue to punish him, as Shadow is not going to have the most fun time trying to get a start. And with camps already spawning Root, that means he's going to be delayed on his overall first clear. Ninjas and Pyjamas should be able to give Aki now full access to this entire red side quadrant.
And that's a pretty big win then for Aki's side. He only goes for the Raptors immediately. Level 2's mid lane, actually, and it gives a little bit more damage down onto the Kassadin. So, you know, asking for some early aggression out of the jungler, that's pretty decent already.
Yeah, and just crossing on over. I mean, this is such an aggressive pathing from
Look at the
Aki.
matchup of these mid laners as well here. Doinb versus Care all-time head-to-head. 4 series wins for Doinb, 3 for Care. Overall, pretty even game score, even series score. And you know, if we take into account that final game that we've just seen, Care, you know, adding another one to that game win score. So end of this series, it could end up having Care just a little bit of an edge. It could even be even if it's a 3-1.
Right now, Doinb using the power of that first strike route, which is something I have not seen being run on a mid laner in quite some time, to be honest. But I think since both of these players have had Kassadin experience, Doinb trying to exercise a little bit of the extra poke that you can get out of Victor, just because he is effectively ranged into a melee champion that does not have gap closure until level 6. Just trying to poke out this Kassadin. Meanwhile, FPX bot lane doing the best they can to keep Leave and ppgod shoved in.
Now, Aki did enemy Raptors into full bot side clear, back into dive mid lane. We will see if this pans out. Aki has flash. Care needs to respond immediately with his own.
Care, when will he do it? Oh, what a great angle positioning. No chance for Care to respond on that one. And that's first blood for Doinb's Victor.
I hate to say it, you have to predict that as Care. That is incredibly obvious that Aki is going to flash shunt you into the turret there. That needs to be something that you are not giving any hint of an option to. Even if he's able to flash to the other side of Aki, I think he just lives there and maybe has to TP back and lose out on a couple of minions, but he ends up falling. He doesn't burn his own flash, so might be a little bit safer, but I think that the power of saving flash is pretty reduced on a Kassadin.
Doinb still has a flash of his own. Shadow's going to jump on top of him. Care gets some decent damage down, powered up by that W, but no meaningful trade that forces Doinb to burn that flash summoner spell.
Yeah, I mean, that was... I think, like I say, burning Flash on Kassadin pre-level 6 is exactly why you have Flash. You have Flash on your ultimate for the next remainder of the game. So use the Flash pre-level 6 to save your life, keep experience. Now, he's down 600 gold versus Doinb, who we've already highlighted is probably the single best carry that NIP have had in this season. And we need to see him, as Doinb, use that power that he's been given to probably leverage this into a full game win and be a Super Saiyan Victor moving into the mid and late game.
Still going to be a little difficult for Care on these next couple of levels until he gets access to that Rift Walk, where he will have an easier time to dance around some of the skill shots that Doinb has in his arsenal, as well as that Gravity Well, the one thing that would be able to keep himself safe from an all-in on this cast. We are 5 minutes into the game. First dragon has spawned. It's a mountain. We're not getting a mountain soul anytime soon. Not going to lie, Rude, I don't expect any real exciting action coming out from the top side of the map, so if we ever look at these two tanks, it's for scenic purposes only.
It's to acknowledge that there is literally nothing else going on the map, and that this is the only area we can see some semblance of action. Now, I do want to try to keep track of how well we see this Smolder stacking, already up to 39 after this Q on these creeps here. Probably going to be in a pretty good position. I'm not really feeling too threatened either. Jinx can control the wave quite well with those rockets early on, and I think that one of the things we should have looked for, or soon to be doing, is pushing this wave in on optimal timers for last hitting. I think you can deny experience or deny CS from Smolder actually rather easily as this Jinx if you just time your rockets correctly, or you can whittle down HP by making ppgod only try and tank that so the Smolder can last hit effectively. But that's really not been the case. We see the Smolder here quite happy, sat on that 51 CS. Managed to go back, pick up pickaxe and boots. In fairness, awesome as well. Has BF sword, so isn't feeling too down and out of things either. But I do think that the Smolder getting to scale up here on its own is not necessarily to the benefit yet.
It was a good call by FPX to ban the Senna, just so that there is not another obnoxious scaler that involved in the game. NIP, though, getting first push in mid as well as bot, trying to leash this dragon first. Care is level 6, so now he has access to Rift Walk. Unfortunately for the side of FPX, still not strong enough to feel confident in trying to walk up to something like Poppy and a Braum. So this first dragon belongs to NIP.
Half HP, half mana, and has a Doran shield and a tier. Blood does 0 damage right now. This is not a Kassadin that is going to destroy your backline and one-shot everybody. Instead, it's going to be one who Rift walks forward, instantly dies. That is not the goal of a Kassadin at the minute. And you've taken Kassadin here to match the scaling of the Victor, but giving the Victor that free scaling is also very scary. There's now Shadow walking into Ark. He has got Jwei in his back pocket, so feels confident to walk forward. Not going to get anything from here. There's no bot side jungle for him to take, and this is just a little bit of wasted time here from Shadow. Doesn't really have anything to farm. Couldn't even get his blue buff and move back out, but at the minute, PX praying that NIP don't do much more with this, but the fact that they're a little bit further ahead does give NIP this very decisive advantage.
Look how much gold Doinb is up ahead. It's not just the 20 CS lead, it's the first blood kill, it's the first strike gold that he's successfully getting off chunking Care every single time that the Rune is up, and just further increasing that gold lead. Doinb knows that if he does not do everything in his power, even while, yes, he's playing Victor, a scaling champion in his own right, Kassadin will eclipse him if he allows him to do it for free. Meanwhile, FPX also taking other measures to accelerate the game. Let's start by diving this Smolder on the bottom side. Jwei punts him into the wall. Knock up for the pulverized stun from Shadow. Easy clap to the side of FPX.
Really good response, and ppgod just showing in the mid lane. Costs his AD carry his life there. Doesn't burn flash, so Leave recognizing he was dead is probably the best way to go about this. Might have been able to flash the rocket and get away to safety, but even still, ppgod a little bit late to that play down on the bot side, and Shadow getting proactive, recognizing that grubs are going to go down regardless, and I like that heads up play. Again, it's not without its response, so it's Arky taking the grubs, which is responded to by Shadow as he dives bot lane, but that dive bot lane gives Arky even more time to move into this top side, take away a camp away from the Pantheon, and this is overall NIP making the most of these situations, finding a bit of a bounce back from game 1.
Definitely needed, Rude, because the way that things panned out in the game 1 was definitely leaving a sour taste in Ninjas in Pyjamas fans, I imagine. Now, definitely a better spot, solid 1,000 gold lead, all thanks to Doinb's Victor just being able to really get a huge jump start on Kair's Kassadin. But of course, kind of the flip side of the coin where the longer this game kind of stalls out for NIP and FPX, this Kassadin is going to reach that unbeatable territory zone. ppgod getting jumped on first, but the rest of FPX immediately run tail because the rest of NIP was starting to collapse there.
This is awesome, getting another play on his own. Leave missing out on just a couple of minions here also. So these small things are building up, and we talked about the fact that Victor's probably in a pretty good spot overall, but if you look at the state of these bot laners, Awesome is feeling pretty good about his position in this game, working toward those wild arrows relatively unscathed, got his first BF sword without too much of a concern, is now sitting quite pretty with double summoners up down on that bot side, and unless Arky can find a really good dive down on this bot side, it looks like they're setting up for one, maybe with a roam over from Doinb. But you can see that some things are awry, he spots it out, couple to attack go down, and they're just going to be forced a little bit further back behind their turret, but again, this is a really good position for the FPX bot lane specifically to be in. I do want to talk about how this game looks as we move later in and highlight a little bit of the win conditions for both of these two teams in the sense that I don't have a chance, so they could just get exalted before in time. But they are looking for resets, these two teams. If the Victor can reset his ulti when he's got that glorious evolution, then he's going to be able to run through a team fight. Same to be said for if a Kassadin finds one kill, he can then start resetting and taking those kills down. The refresh on the mana which comes in will be very useful for him, and he's going to give over a very good team fight over to FPX. So that first kill, whichever one of the frontliners ends up playing just that little bit better, using their HP as that indomitable resource for as long as possible, that's what we're looking at for these two teams. That's where that win condition comes in.
I do have to say, I think FPX are going to have to do something about this Kassadin versus Victor matchup because it is starting to balloon. But you know what? Shadows is still keeping his sights on putting Leave Smolder behind as much as possible. And I guess that is a way to try and equalize the deficit that is currently occurring in this mid lane by trying to create a large one just as big in favor of Austin's Jinx against the Smolder.
Yeah, and I mean, the really easy way of looking at this right now is the fact that Kair doesn't have Rod of Ages. Doinb does. He's had it for like 3 minutes at this point, so he's already stacking that up. Kair actually just based and came back out onto the map and still didn't have his Rod of Ages, so it's going to be another recall. -1 on that cannon is going to take him even longer to get to that point of having the Rod of Ages, and now FPX are in trouble bot lane.
Jwei has to step up, cannot use the headbutt yet because the set fast presence was there, now has a chance to run someone away. Q, flash on the 3, Awesome gets the first reset and now is trying to rip through Leave and Aki, but this is still a Jinx without any completed items, so he's not going to get any damage down. But thankfully for FPX, they still get 1 kill. Shadow did have to reset off the dragon, but he's back on the objective.
Yeah, Keeper's Verdict actually knocked away Shadow, preventing that fight from going even worse for NIP. But FPX finding a couple of kills down on that bot side, and a play initiated by NIP, not around their fed Victor, is really starting to cost them quite heavily. As I will highlight that we've had this discussion around Aki not quite being able to flash in and steal here. There's also find down on the bot side, Leave not quite able to find it. But Doinb is farming incredibly well this game. Between first strike, no pressure mid, and everything else, he's very strong.
And you know what? FPX are going to try to swing things in Kair's favor by bringing him to this fight first, but Doinb is starting to walk on over, and they're just too tanky on the side of NIP, so now they have to bail. You already see the flash being expended by Jwei, as Kair just does not have the damage in the tank. You already pointed out, this isn't even a Rod of Ages completed yet. Mega Death Rocket will stop the base on Aki's Poppy. But FPX, I mean, everything is going well for Shadow and Awesome. Still concerned about if this Kassadin is going to be coming online anytime soon because it's been decelerated heavily this game.
And now, in fairness, this Kassadin pick, it's a bit of a Kair classic. right? He's played it 8 times all time, 6-2 record. It's a pick that he's familiar with. He'll have been in these positions before, and the hope is that he'll be able to come back from this position. And it's fortunate, really, that Awesome is in such a good position, because it gives Kassadin that time to reach that level 16 and start to step into these team fights that little bit better. But it's a long road for that to happen. Not even level 11 yet on the Kassadin. Will tick over probably off the next wave. But he's just now 15 minutes in going to finish that Rod of Ages. Tier as well, stacking up quite nicely, but is far behind the curve, and it's going to take him probably another 15 minutes before he's actually anywhere near strong in this game.
Yeah. Well, this does match up to kind of what we have highlighted about both of the team's strengths coming into this matchup, right? FPX have really heavily relied on and found success from Shadow and Jwei unlocking carries on the map. So far this series, they have picked Awesome to be the main benefactor. NIP have really relied on Doinb to step up huge, and right now, you know, almost a 2,000 gold advantage just off of the one intervention by Aki getting that first blood for himself and the first strike gold. He has a Lich Bane. He has a second item completed. No one is even working on their second item yet, with like small components here and there, but this Victor is huge.
It's Noon Quiver on Awesome, it's Aegis for Sheer, but they're not comparing to a completed Lich Bane, and I think that for Doinb, there's a criticism to be had for the build in the sense of taking down champions, because versus 3-4 tanks, why haven't we got a Leandri's on the Victor? Where is that item coming in? However, Awesome has Flash.
Gotta be careful about when Aki goes in, but Awesome holds his ground. A 2v3 Root, and FPX's bot lane stands tall on the turret.
I don't know why Aki didn't do anything. He just stood there, took autos, didn't even decide to E forward, didn't look for anything at all, and maybe he was scared of getting punted into the turret without Flash, so I guess that's where he's been looking at that. But I do think that there was an element of, you can definitely get some summoner spells, probably don't die there, but maybe he was a little bit concerned about being hit underneath that turret. But even still, with the way that this Victor has been building, it's geared much towards that side lane was the point that I wanted to take a look at. That he will be able to take turrets and hopefully accelerate that gold even further. And he's just looking at getting gold from every conceivable source. Whether it's moving to this bot lane and taking the turret, constantly finding a little bit more damage with that first strike on those Q procs. Now they're looking to try and take Sheer out and take this bot tier 1 turret, but there is a response with Shadow here.
With the Hex Flash, will not commit to diving a full tank Cassante. Good idea by the side of NIP's jungler there. They do maintain the defense of this tier 1 turret on the bottom side for now. Teleport coming in from Leave so that he can help collect this wave that Solo Kill is currently holding.
Awesome, do damage challenge. He's 1-1, he's trying.
It's not happening, at least until he gets Lord Doms in his pocket, and with the Noon Quiver, I think he's building a second item, which is definitely a good call.
Yeah, he's going to need that LDR. But this is a second item and a second turret now, rather, going into Doinb, where that's actually not going to be the case. The first turret traded was split between Solo Kill and Doinb, and traded in kind with Care down on that bot side. This time out, not the case. A little move up from Solo Kill prevents the Kassadin from taking that structure itself, and honestly, the Kassadin can't do anything in the face of the Scion right now. 805 bonus HP coming from that Furnace, Soul Furnace, and his W. Really, not a chance that Scion dies anytime soon.
Yeah. It's not happening. This guy is so tanky, and now Ninjas and Pyjamas going to leverage that strength using the Rift Herald for the tier 1 turret in the mid lane. Will they look for a second charge? Aki's thinking about it, winding up. Everyone's starting to collapse here, but no one from FPX can really start up and engage without concern, since Doinb is still quite large on this Victor.
So I have to assume that Flame Chompers are on cooldown. There's a really good interaction for Jinx versus Rift Herald, where if you put the Chompers down just underneath the Rift Herald where the person charges, instead of bouncing back off the turret like you'll see everybody do, people actually get caught in those Flame Chompers. And I think that could have been an opportunity for FPX to try to cash out Aki for riding that turret into the face, in the face of a Jinx really, and underneath the turret as well. Might have seen them go for something a little bit more aggressive. An attempted steal comes through from Awesome, but not going to be successful in that venture. And it's back to NIP continuing this gradual progression through this game. Slowly getting more and more leads. And Doinb now with an entire level lead from that rod.
Flash from Jwei, looking for Aki, but punts him away because Aki was able to flash, but now Doinb's the target here. Keeper's verdict doesn't punt back anyone,
wide.
But Shadow doesn't have enough damage by himself on the Pantheon, trying to call on the reinforcements.
They're
Everyone
in the
else,
pit.
another two-man knockup from the Jwei. Alistar, Doinb flashes over the wall. Sheer going all out, is forced to flash back and retreat. Solo kill now holding the front line here on the side, but taken down. Awesome, looking for the first reset, finds it. Aki tries to flash onto the Jinx, but he's still alive. Sheer presses forward, Shadow looks for the stun.
Doinb's down.
Leave, trying to do everything again, but this smolder's not online yet, and FPX have soared to the heavens as ninjas in pajamas start to fall one by one. Leaves holds his ground.
Go in! What are you doing?
The Q from Leave! He turns it and saves NIP's game with a quadra!
Not online, Mark. What are you saying? Leaf just pulled a quadra kill from FPX and saves the team fight. I think that Care should have just committed to taking him down. But Leaf comes out vastly on top, was 0-1 going into this, moves out of the fight with 4 kills. And with the Dragon going in their favor as well, NIP can rest easy that these team fights are going to be much better now. Leaf came into that fight not with the execute, moves out of it, 240 stacks. It starts with a punt from Jwei to keep Aki alive, but Doinb split from his team. He kites down into the bottom side of this fight. And it's all about the frontliners. It's all about who gets this first kill. Because FPX won this fight. They had the advantage. Despite the double knockup from solo kill, everybody from NIP has to get out of the pit. And Shia cannot die. And the fact that they take down solo kill, it gives the reset over. It allows Awesome to pop off. A cleanse keeps him safe off of the wall. A double knockup here from Shia catches Doinb and pulls him back in. And Care pulls him back as well. Takes him down. And FPX, you can see here, they're a little bit tentative, a little bit scared because this Smolder is online. But we go in on Care. Really good idea to start off with. But this zap hits, and Care ultis back. Kills his AD carry instead of killing the enemies. This was a game where Care locked in his signature Kassadin to carry his team to a win. And in that fight, he carried NIP to the win.
Yeah. I'm at a loss for words. It seems like FPX had that fight in the bag, and now it's an Otacon as the prize for Ninjas in Pajamas. They're going to try to force this fight, but they have to be careful now because Leave has that execute guaranteed on the Smolder. Jwei taking so much damage for free, and no one from FPX can punch through this front line now. Sheer gets a massive Q3 knockup with the all-out, brings Aki forward, but Awesome has to hold his ground. He's got to keep his distance. Shadow behind them, but he falls, and he gets burned to Leave's execute. Sheer sending it. Care trying to follow on up. Awesome gonna get the resets through. He's pointing, and he's pumping damage, but he just cannot kill them all. Leave is still alive, and if you cannot get past this baby dragon, you ain't winning this fight.
And this game is going to live and die by how well Care can get into the backline. In that fight, he found no access, no agency, not a shred of damage onto Leave. And it meant that NIP could tear through FPX. If Care can get back there with Shadow, maybe there's a world that they win. But at the minute, it's just not happening. An engage from Jwei that's immediately thwarted by this Arky steadfast presence. They don't get the initial fight onto Leave. He's able to flap his way over the wall and buys himself a good amount of safety here. Walks back around and he's completely untouched. The power of this Scion versus the Cassante. You talked about it in the draft, Cassante not having just the same amount. Look at how much solo kill is able to stay in that front line. Forces away the Cassante as well. He goes off to the backside with his own ultimate, which really doesn't do enough for the side of NIP to stop this fight from going. And Awesome doing what he can in these team fights, but he's not there yet. A Rune and an Infinity Edge are going to be needed. 4 items before this Jinx is going to do anything. And even then, Awesome is still going to be incredibly squishy, incredibly susceptible to going down.
Yeah, the fact that he was able to get enough stacks preceding the Otacon fight during that Dragon fight and levels up the execute has now put a giant boulder of an obstacle in FPX's path. Because now, Care is still 3 levels away from hitting level 16 on the Kassadin. As you pointed out, Awesome needs more items to effectively do what Leave is doing on his build at the moment. This gives NIP entirety of the map as control for their prize. 3 dragons will now be awarded to them.
The thing is, Kair's going to get another level from Rod of Ages in the next minute. So he's going to be 15, looking for experience up to 16, as opposed to having to work his way all the way through 14 and 15, which is a bit of a saving grace for FPX. And by the time that this next Drake fight comes round, probably going to see level 16 Kassadin, most likely going to have Infinity Edge on Awesome as well. So I like the idea of FPX sacking that dragon, giving themselves a little bit more time to breathe to get that gold. However, we are currently sat in a spot where the Smolder is already 225 plus stacks, already has an Infinity Edge, is working towards, is that Spear probably of Shojin that he's working towards with this Tunneler? So he's got even more damage off of his Qs as well. So yes, it's nice that Jinx is going to get to 3 items, but we're probably also going to see Leave hit 4 before that next team fight comes through. There are 7 stacks on a Doinb Dark Seal, who's going to hit level 16, has already got that Glorious Evolution working in his favour as well. And Kair in this side lane, you can see, is getting bullied out by a Scion.
Can't punch through the tank, man. You know, Kair still got a long ways ahead of him. He is level 15, as you called out, so just 1 more level until he is level 16, but because of all the health that this Scion has and the limited amount of gold that this Kassadin is packing, it's not going to be enough to be able to check, let alone maintain this Scion in the side lane by himself. He's just here just to pick up any scraps of gold and experience so that he can try and destroy Leave in these fights. We'll see if that's going to be the case, but 4,000 gold advantage for the side of NIP. Leave starting to blossom into the carry that Ninjas in Pyjamas really wanted him to be for this series, because as we talked about before during the pre-show route, when it comes to who has to step up and who has to be the reliable forces on this roster, it is Doinb, it is Leave.
I actually want to see NIP use Leave right now and Doinb right now to start a Baron. Right, this is that time where we've talked about all the good things that are going to happen in 5 minutes when that Drake Soul fight happens. But I think they're so far ahead right now, without those critical junctures being hit. The longer they wait, the longer they're giving. Kair's going to hit 16 off of this wave itself. And now all of a sudden that window where you're thinking, oh, maybe we could take a team fight, it actually doesn't look that way. So they've started the Baron, but Kair hit 16.
This is the point now for FPX. They have to believe that Kair can be enough on this Kassadin now that he's level 16. Obviously, the longer the game stalls, the better it will get as he can get more items for himself. But this is the strong point that they have been trying to stall the game for, and it's enough that Ninjas in Pyjamas no longer feel confident in starting up that Baron. Yeah, I think they just took a little bit too long with that. Starting the Baron needed to be done before 16 comes through, before Awesome can reset and finish that Infinity Edge. Now it becomes a rat race for Leaves Shojin, for Doinb to finish off another item and get a bit of an advantage back as well, despite the fact that there are 1,600 gold leads in mid lane, in bot lane. Those are offset now by the fact that a tunneler advantage, it doesn't really make a difference in these team fights if Awesome has a completed Infinity Edge. Same to be said for the Victor. You know, level 16 Kassadin is probably enough of a buying chip, a bargaining tool that you can use to keep yourself safe. Arky. Solo kill unleashes the unstoppable onslaught. Jwei tanks it up. Smolder
Awesome's already dead.
Comes through. Awesome is out of the fight here, down to 1/3 of his HP, trying to lifesteal up just with the power of that Dorn's Blade. Life vamp, physical vamp.
Yeah.
And FPX,
I mean,
at least survive it.
It feels bad for Awesome. He got splash damage from Scion ulti, he got Smolder ultied, and he lost 60-70% of his HP. Looking for a recall, isn't going to be able to find it because NIP just start up the Baron.
Alright, Kair starting to ramp up that Rift Walk on the shortest cooldown possible. Going to be burning a lot of mana right now, but he's just waiting to get that one big nuke drop onto Leave's face. FPX trying to corral around, gain vision of this Baron pit. Kair still waiting on the left side of the shadows.
There's the channel.
Wait, I think, is he spotted on the wall? Help. Shadow goes in, looks for Leaf first, but no one is quite near.
Where's Kair?
Sheer is trying to push through. Kair can't get in. Shadows dies for free, essentially, and now Leaf is going to be able to blast through Sheer. Kair can't get into the fight. He's already left. I don't know what this Kassadin is bringing any value to the team, because the rest of FPX are dropping like flies. Ninjas in Pyjamas are wasting away the Phoenix and just burning them to ashes. Kair's Kassadin gets nothing done, and it's Ninjas in Pyjamas all day as they charge into the base.
Solo kill on the Scion in the face of Awesome denies this Jinx any form of reset, and Doinb and Leave destroy FPX in the fight. It's 1-1, 28 minutes in, the snowball came through, the late game was online, and NIP took no back.
Cares now flashing in, but it is too late, friend, and NIP have done away with Cares Cassidy. The fear of that pick never came through. Ninjas in Pyjamas dissuaded, they diminished it, and they put it to rest. As now FPX are trying to do everything they can to defend the remnants of their base, as NIP are starting to drop low. Awesome, no way that he can find a massive reset here, right? Awesome, the Chaos Storm from Doinb's Victor will put it to rest. And Ninjas in Pyjamas equalize the series 1-1.
Yeah, and I mean, for NIP, a great game to put back under their belts. It's, you know, no longer a sweep. So previously these two teams have met. It's been 2-0, 2-0. This time round, we're at least going up to 4 games. And it's off the back of honestly, solo kill Scion was incredibly oppressive in those team fights. As much as we can highlight Doinb for the damage and his oppression in the early game onto Care, and Leave as well playing these team fights really well, Awesome never got to reset because the Jinx could never get through the Scion, and solo kill was just constantly being that threat, constantly being a menace. And I mean, we've already highlighted as well that, that there's an opportunity here that Care didn't quite have the standout game that he needed.
Nope, it did not happen. But for Ninjas in Pyjamas, you are rejoicing because now what could have been a trump card later on in the series, as you know, you kind of called out once the draft had concluded, it's like this feels like we're staring at a game 5 scenario where, you know, all bets are off and we're really, you know, pulling out late game chips as early as this series as it was. And now Ninjas in Pyjamas have at least reset the momentum. They have shown that they can still answer back against FPX's strength that they have, despite what happened in game 1. You know, it was a pretty big stomp. Ninjas in Pyjamas are able to fight on back, and now it feels like we're going to be in a long haul for this series.
And I do think as well, taking Pantheon away in the Fearless format is actually pretty big for both of these sides. Shadow losing on Pantheon is not something that we frequently see too much of. Not giving Doinb the opportunity to take Pantheon as well is also pretty decent as far as steal aways go. But NIP will be quite happy with the fact that they didn't have to play Pantheon and that they win on the game against it anyway. I mean, this felt like a game where you have double scalers moving into both of these sides, but if we go back to what we've seen be a little bit more traditional from the LPL meta at the very least, FPX, they can revert back to that, you'd like to think, for game number 3. They can probably go back to moving into, you know, your Callistas, if it's not banned, something that's a little bit more free reign in that top lane as well. And I do think that if we see more standard, more traditional drafts that aren't so geared towards scaling, we could very easily see this continue to be FPX favoured. NIP, though, don't get me wrong, they played very well. They had their chances in those team fights and they took them very well. But I don't know how replicable that is going to be going forward.
Yeah. Well, I want to start jumping ahead on conversations for Game 3, Roodood, because now a majority of the priority skirmish junglers are now gone. Vi, Xin, Pantheon. Nefiri is still left on the table, but not the same facilitation and enabling skills, you know, as, you know, her other 3 colleagues in that jungle pool role. Hell, even Poppy is gone too, which has been a pretty powerful flex pick for teams across the league. And, you know, Aki being able to at least pilot here in the jungle ensures that now, when you're looking at the rest of the jungle pool, AP carries start to pop up, tanks start to pop up, and that's where things can get really tricky, because while on the side for Aki, you know, Ninjas in Pyjamas have historically liked to have Aki be a carry threat, he has not been consistent as a carry threat. Shadow...
No, I mean, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
His Lilia has been something that I've been at least a little bit impressed by. So moving into, you know, a situation where you start to use AP carry junglers and might start to have a situation where those are the picks that you need to go for because those facilitators are off the board. It might open up for Aki to have another pretty decent performance, because I do want to say as well, Aki had a very good Poppy early game, right? Like, he's the one that dove the Cassid in level 3 and really set up for Doinb to punish. So the innate facilitatory nature of Aki may have been something that's been undersold in this split, and maybe he hasn't had a great split at all. But in this game, he stepped up, and if he can continue to do that, and maybe on something that's a little bit more comfortable on as well, we might see him come away with another solid performance.
Yeah. Ninjas in Pyjamas would love if, you know, other than Doinb, the 2 carries that, before the swap from Shanji to solo kill even happened, that if both Leave and Aki can step up and be the carry threats that Doinb can reliably give his power to, you know? He has been very vocal that, hey, I'm not, you know, as mechanically talented as my younger peers here. I'm just trying to keep up with them and do whatever I can to elevate them and bring out the best in them, right? So
yeah.
For the side of Doinb, if he's able to take a more facilitative role going into these last few games on the side of NIP, that's a good look. If Aki and Leave are able to
if they win,
that. Yeah, if they pay fold, you know, pay tenfold the investment, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to, you know, highlight here that if we see those carries from NIP step up, then absolutely. And I think that Leave, this is a really defining moment for him, and this series can be quite defining because he was on an EDG roster last year that he was sort of touted as being this elo-held player moving into an NIP roster where he's got NIP, he's got Doinb, you know, Shanji, Aki are actually, you know, looking like they could be relatively exciting moving into this split. But Leave himself has had a split to forget, if we're being honest. Split number 1, we saw some pretty decent things, and moving into split 2, that's not been the case. It hasn't continued and hasn't been paid forward. But this game on the Smolder looked a lot better, hoping that in the future and for the rest of this series, he can have a really good effort and make sure that he's in, you know, a pretty good spot through the rest of this series and make sure that that carry nature continues.
Yeah. Well, quick nominations for Player of the Game, Rude. I mean, Leave. Leave?
Yeah, I don't think I can say who my actual Player of the Game is. And I think that Leave is likely to get it.
Actual Player of the Game, Cares Cassidy bringing the smaller queue into awesome.
Care was the most valuable player in this game. Unfortunately, it wasn't for FPX.
Oh my god.
So yeah, we'll give it to Leave. Well done, Smolder. Great job. Yeah, I mean, Leave played really well. Like, we can't take that away from him. He came up in a 1v4 and came away with 3 kills, right? Like, ultimately that shouldn't have happened, but he capitalized on the mistakes that his team made, or that the enemy team made.
Yep, that's right. Well, there you have it, folks. Game 2 wrapped up. We are 1-1 in the series between FPX and Ninjas in Pyjamas. We're going to see how the story continues to unfold here right after this break as we get ready for Game 3.